With contempt, I closed out of an entry of a man with a spooky situation regarding whispers in his walls. This was, of course, culminating to a big scare of a daunting 7-foot creature with skinny arms, a maw that makes a shark jealous, eyes blacker than overcooked bacon, and strength that would put renowned bodybuilders to shame. Of course, leading to the man to warn the danger of hearing the occasional noises in your house before leaving us to dwell on his situation as he presumably gets ripped to atomic gooey residue. Of course, this didn't faze me at all. I've heard scarier stories at a campfire before, I complained to my friend Antonio, who equally shared the boredom I did. Hey man, don't be harsh. I give it a 6 out of 10. 3 out of 10 from me. He rolled his eyes in response. Even if you're a snob, I do agree that these stories have been lackluster lately. In my opinion, they were worse than lackluster. Slogging through the same tropes of these oaf narrators running on their 3 brain cells and stupidly handling any danger they meet, which turns out to be the same danger, or at least a similar one every time, has been grating, to say the least. What made it worse is that some of these stories didn't invoke the feeling of being real at all. However, I'm glad, but also petrified, to say that all changed today. Specifically this morning at 3. Antonio and I, self-proclaimed horror connoisseurs and occasional story dubbers, were over call, goofing around no sleep, screen-sharing stories that we came across. We saved the ones we deemed voiceover worthy. Some were decent. Some were haphazardly written by first graders seeing Jeff the Killer for the first time. There was one that later caught Antonio's eye, named with almost intentionally menacing undertones. I don't expect you to believe this, and that's what I want. Spooky! Am I right, nostalgia critic? Antonio smugly hyped me up as I was taken aback by the title. Is this another ritual story gone wrong? Old curse? I thought to myself. Doesn't seem too exciting. I hid my anticipation under a facade of underwhelm as he clicked open the story. The following is word for word what we read. Hello, poor and pathetic user that comes across this post. Let's cut to the chase. The mods will most likely delete my post. They were covering this stuff up for ages, so I hope to get this out to as many of you as I can. Anywho, I was dealing with a hindrance, so to speak. This hindrance started a while back when one person first posted about it, and then became a chain of the unfortunate people affected trying to save themselves by posting about it, starting the chain again. To my knowledge, all of the other posts about this issue in the past have been taken down in a matter of minutes for unexplained reasons. Guess it's the mods. Or maybe the site itself trying to save the public from this thing. I thought this was all just a rumor, but when I finally came across someone talking about this whole can of worms, I found myself right in their trap. If you really don't want to take the gamble on seeing if this whole thing is true, click off right now. But you are more than welcome to stay. What I will say might as well not even see the light of day, but I accept the challenge. I've been living in fear for far too long. What is this thing, you might ask? Well, ironically, I'm not even sure how it looks like, thank God for that. However, I will describe its purpose. I heard it passively, usually from the corner of a room, sometimes inches from my ear. But I never get to see it, just a flash out of my peripheral. It said things like, if you want to survive, you must pass the knowledge of me on. Hate to admit it, but I have. I first told my coworker in a welding company, which was, of course, met with a smart remark about me getting into some not-so-savory habits lately. This was done expecting nothing of it. I didn't think what would follow would be so grim. I promptly saw him in a local news report the next morning, where the station labeled him as missing. When I got to the site, the crew was going over ideas of what happened to him. while I just listened, dumbfounded and concerned. These claims were all shushed later on in the day, where a follow-up report explained his body was found in terrible condition near the woods by his house. This was later debunked as an understatement, as a close friend of his went on to say investigators he visited described him as being a mere skin suit with odd markings near his neck akin to a strangulation. Nearly nothing left on the inside, except his skeletal structure. Needless to say, this revelation left us shook, and I went home with a sense of crushing guilt, but also relief. This didn't end here. I heard the voices again, and this time, I slowly but surely saw more and more of who the voices were coming from, due to how more often I ignored its commands. It didn't let me see enough, though, for me to deduce a description, but the message was still sent. I caved, and I shamefully told the most I could, being the coward I am. It was me or them, you know? For me being from a small town in rural Pennsylvania, the people that soon died under mysterious circumstances didn't go undetected. Unfortunately, no matter what, that greedy thing always came back for more, and no matter what, I still deterred it from me, which drove me mad. I never had a criminal record, but being connected to the murder of so many people made me think I should just send myself to death row. The crew is almost down to 10 less members. My remaining coworkers now murmur behind my back that I've been doing all this. It isn't wrong, but it still hurts regardless. I even resorted telling relatives that were on death's door about this thing. I even started walking up to people at random on the streets and tried my best to speak their ear off about this cretin and what it's all about. All of this to avoid the fate of its victims. At one point, the news station said 25 people went missing in the last 3 weeks, going off to blame the cause on a possible serial killer. It all wasn't enough. Whatever this is, was coming back more frequently and been hiding itself less. It's getting bolder, impatient. Just yesterday, I saw a hand in the shadows in which I could make out clutching a door frame, nearly making a splinter. This all brings me to this moment in time where you're hearing me right now. I don't know if it'll still work, but I've had enough of it all. Enough of being at fault for my friends' and family's deaths. Enough of being under the thumb of such a horrid being. So I hope the internet is the final hurdle I need to go through for it to be satisfied. If not, I guess I'm finding out the truth soon enough. Maybe the reason the chain started in the first place was everyone on here never actually took the many previous OP's admissions of guilt to heart. If you're still reading this, it appears you stupidly did the same. I don't have an apology to share. Rather, a new friend that's meeting you soon. Okay, 5.5 out of 10, I say, processing the cliched but oddly menacing story. What? That was obviously an 8 out of 10 in my book. Antonio, in pleasant surprise, then copied everything into the Google Doc that we use for our voiceovers, instantly deeming it as video-worthy. I don't know, maybe it's because it's just chainmail nonsense? Oh, fair, but you can't deny it's written pretty well. That was chilling. A side of me kinda agreed with Antonio. Another side wanted to sock the author in the face for his mediocre plot choice. One last side of me, a smaller and quieter side, contemplated if it was real. I I shrugged it off. Even if he wanted us to believe it wasn't real and try to go by his truth, I was sure it was a rhetorical device for the story to be more compelling. Regardless, these thoughts didn't let up, especially when, that's weird? Antonio piped up, disrupting my thought. What is? I refreshed the page because my internet was lagging and now it's removed? I froze. That sounded oddly similar to the circumstances of what the guy described. I felt watched all of a sudden, but stubborn me shrugged all this off. Antonio was faring worse than me, however. Oh crap, this isn't a good sign. The dude did mention this would happen, and to anyone that mentioned this creature, you think it was removed for unrelated reasons? Before I could speak, I saw something dart in the corner of my eye. It's been a few hours from where I left off, and things, didn't get any better. After I saw what I saw, I booked it to Antonio's house. He's only 20 minutes away on blades. I probably looked like a manic rollerblader at 3:30 a.m. with my shorts on and freezing night air, but I could care less. I barged inside as soon as I got to the door and explained what happened. He was just as scared as me, because apparently in between all of this, he started hearing voices. Ones that were oddly similar to... Okay, you know what? They were exactly the same as the ones in the story, hearing all the same stuff about spreading the knowledge and whatnot. My brain was practically melting out of my ears, making sense of it all. We both didn't know what our next move was. Until we both decided to see what would happen for ourselves if we told someone. Antonio's less than adequate stepdad conveniently waltzed onto the scene. The person Antonio wanted to finally move away from for years. We silently came to the conclusion that if all of this truly wasn't delusion, he really won't be missed. So we told him most of everything, leaving out actually experiencing the same things the person from the post had. He then unsurprisingly laughed a laugh comparable to a wheezing gorilla and then spat on Antonio for coming up with such a stupid waste of his time. He then turned on Chainsaw Man and cracked open a Corona, leaving us to walk in bemusement to the kitchen. We waited around, seeing what would end up happening. And soon enough, we heard a scream that sounded almost uncharacteristically high coming from Antonio's stepdad. We hid in front of the doorway to the living room and, regretfully, took a peek. From the vantage point we had, all we saw was the 250-pound boulder of a man being strangled by the neck and being lifted a great distance from the ground by an appendage of some sort. It was jet black, slimy, coated in what looked like eyeballs, and honestly looks like a boa constrictor injected with steroids, except we didn't know if it was an arm, a leg, or whatever it was. From where we were, we couldn't find out what it was attached to, but it's better that way. Me and Antonio didn't stick around for the carnage and bolted to his room, pushing most of the room's contents in front of the door. "Dude, what the heck is that?" Antonio yelled, almost drowning out the chaos going on outside. I was too in shock to even reply, as we then heard a deafening thump. The house filled with silence for a good 30 seconds until it was broken by, "I need more!" A gravelly voice practically shook the house off its foundation. Wettish munching replaced the only sounds in the house besides our own jagged breathing. What needed to be done was clear. We quietly got to work on putting out the word of this monstrosity. A common denominator we soon found out was it seemed people who learned about its existence in real life was given no time to spread the word, while people learning about it over the internet seemed to have a chance at survival. I'm so sorry to say, but it seems like you will just have to take that chance. I'm recording this right now as Antonio is quickly getting ready to edit it for our channel. As for me, I have a little white lie to share. I pasted in the story from the past OP into this post after all of this happened. Before, it just contained a semi-in-depth summary of what the guy said. We can't risk not passing this on to someone else, so I went the extra mile. But I mean, hey, he did warn you, not me. That may have been a cheap way of making you involved, but trust me, what we did was expected. This all just goes to show sometimes you really need to heed what a person may say on the internet, no matter how fake it may seem. Take this as a warning. Well, subscribe maybe. And tell someone about what happened maybe. Good. I think it stopped eating. Hi everyone, it's me, Michelle Renee, but you can call me Giggles. I couldn't log into my Patreon for a while, so I've deleted it and I've made a new one. So now I'm finally back to giving a shout out to my patrons. Eric Cifuentes, Andrea Sanderson London, Lawrence Wallen, Geek Sanctuary, and Melissa Perez. If you want to become a patron of mine or just donate a couple of bucks, there are links to my Patreon, Coffee, and I've also started a throne in case that interests anybody. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.